The idea of being beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists is exactly the conundrum those of us in traditional public primary schools find ourselves in. It's the equivalent of having the best possible version of the Walkman being released in a marketplace that expects an iPod. The purpose it serves is no longer relevant, despite being very well crafted. See, I struggle as an educator, balancing what the school, the education system, parents, and curriculum feel is needed with what I see as of value considering the student needs that arise in my classroom. But it's not just me, though. We're at a time where worldviews on what education is and what it needs to be are colliding and opening up new chances for reflection. Let's take a really quick, very generalized overview of the history of education as seen through the lens of spiral dynamics to get a sense of what these differing worldviews or models of education look like. Public education as we know it emerged in Prussia in the early 1800s to meet very blue systemic needs. Basically, the military said, we could improve our military if training started earlier in life. We'll provide a public education to all citizens starting at the age of 5. These institutions were put in place to develop loyal, obedient infantry and feed the growing needs of the Industrial Revolution with basic literacy and math skills. The educational practices focused on a one-size-fits-all curriculum that is transmitted to the students by a teaching authority using repetitive drills. The key idea at this blue level of education is that what is already known is most important. Your insights and personal opinions are not valued. Your job is to repeat back through memorization and rote drills. The environment itself is designed for this style of pedagogy. Teacher, the authority at the front, ruling by fear of punishment, while students passively receive information in individual desks set up for a lack of interaction with others, and you typically find authority figures on the walls too. What is interesting is the idea of achievement or success in school wasn't really present until Orange got its hands on public education in the late 1800s. Marks weren't previously commonly given. Rather, any kind of report given to parents about their child only focused on conformative values, such as punctuality, cleanliness, and the number of lines they had memorized from a text. This model of education came into conflict with emerging economies that focused on the success and achievement of the individual over conformity to the group. Many countries saw the merits of Prussia's enhanced military training, but chose to adapt the social incubator to meet the needs of their individualistic free market economy. The goal of the student was no longer to assimilate and disappear in the obedient classroom. Rather, classes became collectives of individuals, out on their own, desiring to achieve success in class. But success needed a currency, so the focus shifted towards grades. Orange used education as a social incubator to introduce children to finding out how to get results as a means of getting ahead, how to enterprise, set goals, and build autonomy. Orange transcended but included Blue's model. What is already known is still most important, but now you, as an individual, are ranked against the curriculum of facts and skills that are decided to be important for you. It is your job as a student to do work that proves that you can accomplish success within this system. Students needed to be held accountable and tracked for their progress through this curriculum, so assessments arose as a data-driven, scientific method of tracking student achievement. There is this shared cultural belief that a student, their work and abilities can be distilled down to a single number out of 100. The problem we face today is that the Orange model of education isn't seen as a model, it's seen as education itself. It feels nearly impossible to think of school without seeing its sole purpose as being the place for students to work and to gain marks. Assessing for success doesn't stop with a student, though. Teachers and administrators are held accountable for how well their students are achieving. As well, the school, the district, the states, and even countries are given numeric values compared to other countries. Now, it's easy to find limitations with this model of education, but at one time the cultural story was if you achieved well in school, you achieved well in your life. You either had access to jobs that less successful students didn't, or you got into better schools that gave access to even better jobs. You would have a better chance of succeeding in the workforce thanks to your achievement in school. There was a strategic, future payoff to finding value in your studies. However, this world no longer exists. You're still better off to do well in school and to get a higher education than not. But certainly, I think we can all agree, success in school is no longer a guarantee of success in the economic system. We are beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists. Assessment expectations are more clearly explained to students than ever before. Our methods of feedback for greater student achievement continue to improve. Marking rubrics are shared with students so they know exactly how the teacher will mark their work, and so on. We also hear about stories from America and around the world where schools are becoming so test-focused that student achievement in certain specific capacities is so overvalued to the degree that other areas of study like the arts, physical education, social studies, and even the sciences are being left to atrophy. Check out Sir Ken Robinson's talks, Do Schools Kill Creativity and How to Escape Education's Death Valley for more in-depth critiques on these issues. Unfortunately, we are trying to feed a system that is no longer there. It's not that I don't feel there should be a place for assessment, success, or achievement. If we're going to attempt to give an education to every child in an entire country, we want to know that in one way or another it's doing some good. I just don't think we've been putting our focus where it could reap the most amount of benefit for students, communities, and countries. All of these great intentions around achievement just feel misguided to me due to one little orange-influenced word, and that's achievement. Achievement of what? Achievement of a human told that there are pre-existing standards that certain authority feels are worth measuring and are important for you to be tested against, whether you value them or not. Now, the unchallenged philosophy of this model of education is that a student is an island. That a student is a unique individual, completely separate from their environment, and it's fair to measure this person and their work in isolation against one-size-fits-all standards. I'm imagining if I sat down with someone from No Child Left Behind or any group that values a nation's test scores when compared to another and said, do you really believe that there are no variables in student achievement? Like, do you really believe that factors like home life, diet, relationship to the teacher, self-esteem, social stability, interest level in the material, the developmental stage, even just the comfort level of sitting at a desk, you don't think that's going to influence individual results? Now, I certainly would say, yeah, of course those things influence student achievement. But to make the orange model of education work, we have to ignore the man behind the curtain and pretend that assessment, accountability, and achievement are the be-all and end-all, and that we can make children islands and isolate their abilities. Although marks and tests don't intend for this, I often find performance on assessments like these often reflect something deeper about who a student is as a person. How they orient to the world, what actions or habits they have, the opinions they hold about themselves or their work, and the shared beliefs they embody, how they open up. More so, often during assessments, how they shut down, and how they go into their preconditioned, habituated behaviors. I feel the work is helping to support and transform how students show up in the world, which may influence their marks. But I don't believe it's worth our time to convince students that they should value marks when they either don't see how it benefits them in the short term, or they're smart enough to not buy into marks' authority. The big conflict we're seeing in European and North American schools nowadays is the emerging green model of education. Green uses methods like collaborative learning, lots of partner, small group, and whole class activities. The idea of appreciating diversity and different views arises, and the sense that individuals should be put outside the group kind of dissipates. The idea of co-creating an understanding of a topic or a skill is central. We still have the one-size-fits-all curriculum at Green, but Green knows that one size does not fit all, and decides to differentiate this instruction. We certainly still have achievement level, focused curriculum standards, but now not everyone has to meet the same ones. It's okay to be behind or ahead of the rest of the group because teachers are expected to meet students where they are. Classes are no longer places for individual achievement and getting ahead. It's about creating a learning community that ideally draws on every member's strength to help create shared understanding. Right now in Canada, we are at war over math of all things. Let me use shared math problem solving as an example of how orange and green are butting heads. This new green approach to math involves pairing two students together who are asked to solve a mathematical problem that involves skills the students may or may not have explicitly been introduced to yet. Students work out possible answers, While working, the teacher selects 2 to 4 groups to present their thinking and solutions in order to spark class discussion and shared exploration of the mathematical concepts. Even if the ideas or solutions are wrong or very simple, the teacher might select them and have students present their thinking in order to suggest different ways to look at the problem, or just simply to correct some misunderstandings. At the very end, the teacher then often, quote-unquote, teaches by using the student work and the discussion they've had to reveal the mathematical concept and teach the big idea and how to do it. Now, the problem here for Orange is how can you possibly give an individual student mark for achievement here? Where are the worksheets with clear answers of right or wrong? Who contributed which ideas in the pair? Why are we letting students who got the wrong answer share their ideas and spend time explaining faulty thinking? What am I going to put on this kid's report card? And how come the class's co-created understanding of objective math is focused on rather than just the procedures of how to solve math correctly all of the time? Now, I'm not saying this approach to math is the be-all and end-all. It's just simply another paradigm for how to approach teaching and exploring the language of mathematics. However, some parents, teachers, and educational communities are stating that this green approach to math is ruining our students' abilities in math, and we're falling far behind in math when compared to other countries. It's this funny thing we do in education. We tend to sway from one extreme to the other. For example, with math, from only using textbooks, worksheets, and drills, to shared math work, with no textbooks, just working with a partner and discussing ideas as a class. I don't feel the answer lies in either approach on its own, but rather a balancing of these seemingly polar opposite ideas. There are also yellow second-tier models of education that are coming online, which are worth exploring and I attempt to employ with my class. Instead of starting with a one-size-fits-all curriculum, my approach starts with a student, who they are as an individual, and then we work together outwards from them to find what best suits their development. As skillful integral educators, we can find ways of doing that while still balancing our roles within the orange to green systems we find ourselves in and meeting their requirements. We can rearrange how we teach certain subjects in order to create structures, routines, and systems that allow us to meet individually or in small groups of students on an ongoing basis. We can implement pieces from so-called alternative approaches. I love Logan LaPlante's hack schooling talk. Check it out. I'm trying to incorporate some of those ideas in my room. The goal of my talk today, though, is not to present a bucket of strategies to make a classroom more integral or explore what integral level education looks like. That can be saved for another day and is certainly worth taking a look at on its own. Rather, I just want to shift the subjective into the objective. This is the most important thing I believe we can do as integral educators. By hopefully allowing us to see the various models of education, we can be more present to their strengths and weaknesses. We can objectively reevaluate what education and the school experience look and feel like. Blue desires students to conform. Orange desires students to achieve. Green desires them to collaborate. Yellow desires them to transform. I believe transformation occurs when a new problem or piece of a puzzle is presented to your current model of the world that doesn't fit with your current operating system. I believe we better equip people to transform when we help them get in touch with their own models of the world. And I know this sounds super lofty, but the 8 to 9-year-olds that I teach understand this at the start of the year when we do a lesson on perspectives. I present this image to them and ask them what do they see. After a few moments, I say, who sees the face? And a number of hands shoot up. Then I ask, who sees the man playing a saxophone? The rest of the hands shoot up. And inevitably, there's this beautiful moment where there's puzzled looks as they try and fathom how someone else could see something entirely different when they can clearly see what it is that's before their eyes. After having each other explain their concept to the other, I ask them, which one is right? At first, again, I can see the developmental struggle. They often at that age work in black and white, where they desire to see a clear, definitive answer, and they have a really hard time handling gray. Their level of philosophical thinking blows me away, though, when I ask them to challenge their idea that there has to be a right or a wrong. Now, every time I've done this, the following conclusions are reached by the students after a few minutes of discussing. They come up with different ideas like, well, each is right, but that doesn't make the other wrong. Or neither is right, but neither's wrong. Or both are partially right, but not totally right. And my favorite, you can't say that either is right or that either is wrong. And there you have it. The seeds are planted for the rest of the year, for every unit of study to question claims of truth and what is right or wrong, and to always evaluate one's perspective. Now, the idea here isn't to rush them through their stages of development by quickly presenting the shortcomings of their current view and pushing them to the next stage of development, but rather to help them create space around their subjective experiences and make them more objective. Allow them to see their models of the world instead of only reinforcing the glasses through which they already see. Allow them in the presence to see their model of the world as their model, not the objective truth. I believe the world today isn't served by only having achievers, conformists, or collaborators. Each of these are just a way of doing things, like a tool to approach the world with. However, if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. We need a tool belt that holds all of these conflicting tools together, so we can tactfully use them when they best suit the job or challenges we face. I believe to be equipped for today's world, we need to help inspire individuals who can transform. In times of constant change, we need beings who are developed individuals and members of groups who can take their model of the world and transform it to meet the kaleidoscopically changing nature of the environment that they need to adapt to. I believe this is how we, as an educational community, become the learners, not only inherit the world, but connect with it and find our places in it too.